Recent global events are not mere coincidences, nor are they the result of chance. Many believe that we are living in times of accelerated transformation, and perhaps even witnessing the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. Think about natural disasters, technological revolutions, incessant conflicts. It all seems to be part of a big picture that, in some ways, has already been predicted. And when we connect these events with the prophecies that speak of Jesus' return, a larger narrative begins to emerge, as if we were being led to a critical point in history. It is not only changes on a global scale that we must observe, but also individual and social transformations. People are increasingly searching for answers, looking for meaning in the midst of so much turmoil. In a way, this is a natural consequence of a world that changes at breakneck speed. Imagine the emotional and spiritual impact of seeing reality itself transform before your eyes every day. There's no way it won't affect each and every one of us. And that's when many begin to wonder, are we closer to the end times than we imagined? When we talk about prophecies and signs of the end, it is not just about catastrophes and global events. There is also a transformation of values, perceptions, and priorities. Society seems to be in a constant dilemma where what was once solid is now fluid. Think about how the global economy, politics, and even personal relationships are in a constant state of change. In this scenario, some see a kind of preparation for something bigger, perhaps the coming of a new world order, the emergence of a new world order that is discussed so much. But what can we do in the face of these changes? Well, one thing is certain, we cannot ignore them. For those who believe in the prophecies, this is a time to reinforce your convictions, to be prepared. For those seeking answers, perhaps it is time to look beyond what is visible and try to understand the bigger picture. If we prepare for everyday changes, such as a new job opportunity or a change of city, why not prepare for global changes that could affect all of humanity? Perhaps the secret is knowing how to read the signs. And speaking of signs, the next step might be to look at the global efforts being made to unite humanity in common goals, such as the UN's Compact for the Future. Is this effort a promise of peace and prosperity, or are we witnessing the harbinger of a structure that goes beyond what appears? In a changing world, it is natural for humanity to seek collective answers to its challenges. The UN's Compact for the Future is exactly that, an attempt to bring nations together under common goals such as peace, sustainability, and global cooperation. However, like many global initiatives, it carries with it a certain amount of controversy. For some, it is hope for a more just and harmonious world. For others, a concern that we are creating the foundations for a one-world government. After all, the idea of unification always brings with it the shadow of centralization of power. Imagine a scenario in which all the nations of the world are aligned under the same objective, the same direction. It may seem like a utopia to some, but for others it is a cause for warning. Many interpret this initiative as an important step towards the emergence of a global government, something that aligns with prophetic theories about the end times. And it's no surprise that these concerns surface. The idea of a single government is deeply rooted in many prophecies, being seen by some as the harbinger of an era of total control. So what does this mean for everyday people like you and me? It means we need to be careful. This pact for the future is not just an agreement between governments. It affects our daily lives, our freedom, and even our thinking about the future. Some might argue that this will bring more stability, while others see it as a threat to individual sovereignty and freedom of choice. After all, how far are we willing to go to guarantee peace? And what will be the real cost of this peace? Do you feel like we are living in challenging times but still can't fully understand what is happening around us? So that you can understand more clearly and quickly the signs that surround us, it is essential to be aware of the prophecies that are being fulfilled in our days. Many still don't realize the magnitude of what is happening in the world, and that's exactly why I decided to offer something special to all channel subscribers. An exclusive digital ebook titled The Secret Behind the Holy Bible. This book is an unmissable opportunity to access impactful revelations about biblical prophecies, which will open your eyes to current reality. Don't let this unique chance pass you by. The knowledge contained in this ebook can transform the way you see events around you, offering a new perspective on global events that have a direct connection with what was prophesied millennia ago. And best of all, the process to obtain your gift is quick and simple. Just click on the link available in the first pinned comment to immediately download the ebook. Many people question whether this type of initiative is a sign of the end times, as predicted in so many scriptures and prophecies. And frankly, it's a valid question. When you see so many countries giving up part of their autonomy in the name of a greater good, it is not difficult to imagine a scenario in which control is concentrated in the hands of a few. And this refers to a series of prophecies that talk about the emergence of the Antichrist, a leader who will rise to rule the entire world. The link between global initiatives and prophetic texts is something that cannot be ignored by those looking for signs. It is interesting to see how this context not only makes us look at nations, but also at ourselves. Are we ready to accept the changes that are coming? If the idea of a single government scares you, perhaps it is time to reflect on what is behind this concern. Could it be a lack of trust in leaders, or a fear that these prophecies are really being fulfilled? Now, before we draw definitive conclusions, it may be interesting to look at other signs, such as the translation of the scriptures and the global impact that this dissemination can bring. One of the most ambitious initiatives in recent times is the translation of the Bible into all the world's languages, a project led by Wycliffe Bible translators, expected to be completed by 2025. This monumental effort to ensure that all nations have access to the gospel resonates directly with the prophecy of Matthew 24:14, which says that the gospel will be preached to all nations before the end. For many, this approaching goal is not just a milestone, but a clear sign of the fulfillment of the sacred scriptures. Imagine the impact of every person in the world being able to access the gospel in their own language, without cultural or linguistic barriers. This goes beyond simple communication. It's about offering everyone the opportunity to learn about the message of Jesus Christ, regardless of where they live. Bible translation symbolizes more than words on paper. It is an effort at spiritual connection on a global scale. Some could even argue that it is a way to prepare the nations for the coming events, making room for a spiritual awakening before the prophetic changes. This project is not just about disseminating a book, but about transforming lives. People who had never before had access to the scriptures are now beginning to understand the words that have shaped the faith of millions for centuries. Think of the most remote village deep in a forest, where the local language has never been recorded. With the translation of the Bible, each of these communities is being reached. It is not surprising that many see this as one of the greatest signs of the fulfillment of end-time prophecies. Of course, there are challenges and even opponents to this project. Some governments and groups see this initiative as a threat to their cultural sovereignty, or even as a tool of Western influence. However, for those who believe in the importance of the Christian message, this translation is seen as a divine mission, a promise that all nations will have the chance to hear the message before the end. It is interesting to observe how this apparently simple action of translating a text can have such profound implications in the spiritual and even political context of the world. And so, as the world moves toward globalization and seeks unification through pacts like the Covenant for the Future, we simultaneously see an effort to ensure that God's word is heard in every part of the globe. Could this be the final preparation, a clear sign that we are about to witness events that were already written thousands of years ago? Before we answer, it may be interesting to consider the growing conflicts in the Middle East, which seem to increasingly align with Ezekiel's prophecies. The Middle East region has always been a point of geopolitical tension, but recent conflicts have taken on an even more intense and alarming tone. Ancient prophecies, such as those of Ezekiel, speak of a coalition of nations turning against Israel, and many believe that we are beginning to see these alliances forming. When we look at current events, such as the strengthening of relations between countries traditionally hostile to Israel, it is difficult not to think that we are seeing a kind of preamble to something bigger, something that has already been described in ancient texts. The alliances that are being formed, especially between countries such as Russia, Iran, and other states in the region, seem increasingly in line with the predictions made by Ezekiel. This scenario of growing hostility towards Israel brings to light the idea that we are witnessing the beginning of a prophetic conflict, one that could have consequences of global proportions. This is not just about international politics. There is a spiritual dimension that surrounds all of this. For those who believe the prophecies, the escalation of conflicts is more than a territorial dispute. It is a fulfillment of what was written thousands of years ago. For the average person, it may seem difficult to understand what this means. But it's important to remember that conflicts like these don't occur in a vacuum. They have ramifications that affect the global economy, international relations, and even people's everyday lives. Rising oil prices, economic insecurity, and forced displacement of people are just some of the direct repercussions we have felt. And, for those who believe in the veracity of biblical prophecies, this all also points to a scenario in which Israel will become the central focus of world events, just as predicted. History shows us that conflicts in the Middle East often have global repercussions. Past wars in the region have already involved several nations, and today, with technology and connectivity, the impacts are felt even more quickly and intensely. Ezekiel's prophecy mentions a great battle that will take place in the last days, and many scholars believe that this battle will be triggered by tensions like those we are witnessing today. This leads us to reflect. Are we heading towards an inevitable confrontation, something that has already been determined by the prophecies? As we watch events unfold in the Middle East, we can't help but notice how everything seems to fit together into a prophetic puzzle. Every political movement, every alliance formed or broken seems to have a greater meaning. Are we on the brink of a major event that will change the course of history? Before we try to answer that question, it is important to look at other signs, such as the rise of a global financial system, which is shaping up to lead us to a new kind of world order. In recent years, we have seen the growth of digital currencies, such as cryptocurrencies, and the growing discussion about a centralized digital financial system. This rise of digital currencies is seen by many as a step towards a system of global financial control, a move that does not go unnoticed by those who study the prophecies of the apocalypse. The concept of the mark of the beast, mentioned in the book of Revelation, has been associated by some with the idea of centralized control over money, where no one can buy or sell without being within this system. The idea of a global digital currency is not just science fiction, it is something that is becoming reality. Countries around the world, including major powers like China and the United States, have explored the idea of digital currencies issued by their central banks. This, combined with the decline in the use of physical cash and the growth of digital payment platforms, creates a scenario where control over each individual's finances can be easily monitored. What does this mean for people's financial freedom? For many, this represents a significant risk, as centralization can easily become a tool of control over the actions of individual citizens. For those watching the signs of the times, this move towards a single digital economy aligns with the prophetic narrative of absolute control. Imagine a scenario in which, without specific identification, perhaps even a type of brand or chip, you cannot make a single purchase. That doesn't seem so far away anymore, especially when you consider how technologies are rapidly advancing and how governments and corporations are increasingly interested in maintaining tight control over financial flows. Many people are beginning to wonder whether cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology are a solution to freedom, or whether they are actually a step towards a new form of oppression. It is interesting to see how changes in the global financial system appear to align with other global trends, such as the quest for political unification and international cooperation. The emergence of a new world order is not just about currencies and finance, but a complete reorganization of the way power is distributed in the world. Financial centralization is just one piece of the puzzle. And as all these pieces begin to fall into place, a picture emerges of a future in which total control is ever closer, a scenario that many believe heralds the rule of the Antichrist, as described in Scripture. As this new global financial system develops, we are also seeing the advancement of technologies such as artificial intelligence, which have the potential to further increase control and surveillance over citizens. Combining these technologies can lead to an unprecedented level of control, something many see as part of the prophetic plan unfolding before our eyes. But before we delve into the issue of artificial intelligence, we need to understand how these financial changes are setting the stage for a system of surveillance and control that, just a few decades ago, would have been unimaginable. Artificial intelligence, AI, is quickly becoming an indispensable presence in our lives. From virtual assistants to recommendation systems, AI is infiltrating virtually every aspect of modern society. And, as expected, this technology is advancing at a rapid pace, with predictions indicating that by 2025, around 80% of businesses will rely on some form of AI. For some, this represents progress and efficiency. For others, it is a warning that we are moving into an era of constant surveillance, in which every move and decision is monitored and analyzed. AI's ability to collect, process, and analyze data on an unimaginable scale raises questions about privacy and freedom. Imagine a world where your every choice, from what you buy to where you go, is recorded and used to predict your future actions. For many people, this is not just a technological issue, but a spiritual problem, as it seems to fit perfectly into the global monitoring scenario described in apocalyptic prophecies. The idea of an omnipresent AI is reminiscent of the image of an all-seeing eye, a symbol that many associate with the absolute control of the Antichrist. Some of the biggest advances in AI come from initiatives that seek to create a kind of superintelligence, capable of making decisions faster and more accurately than any human being. This can be useful in sectors such as medicine or logistics, but it also carries with it the possibility of being used as a tool of oppression. Countries around the world are already implementing AI-based surveillance systems to monitor their citizens, and this type of technology, in the wrong hands, can easily be used to suppress dissent and control behavior. For those watching the prophecies unfold, the advancement of AI is seen as yet another piece in the end times puzzle. The technology that should free us, giving us more time and comfort, may end up becoming the very key to our prison. Think about how, with a simple click, authorities could have complete access to your digital life, track your movements, and even influence your choices. This is reminiscent of warnings about a time when no one will be able to buy or sell without being inside the system, and AI may well be the mechanism that makes this possible. As AI becomes an increasingly integral part of our society, we are forced to consider the implications of such a connected and monitored world. Are we ready for a future where our lives are at the mercy of algorithms? Or is there still room to resist this transformation? Before delving into this issue, it is worth looking at one of the most symbolic aspects of the fulfillment of the prophecies, the global pressure on Israel, a country that continues to be in the spotlight, as predicted thousands of years ago. Israel has always been a focal point in prophetic narratives, and recent events only reinforce this position. International pressure on the country has been increasing, especially at the United Nations, where resolutions often place Israel under scrutiny. Many see this as the fulfillment of prophecies that speak of Jerusalem being the center of opposition of all nations in the last days. The constant attention and condemnation directed at Israel does not seem to be merely political, but is part of a bigger picture, where the fate of a small piece of land affects the entire world. Israel's history is unique. No other nation was scattered for nearly 2 millennia, only to be restored to its ancestral land, as described in the Scriptures. And now, as we see this nation being pressured by issues of sovereignty, security, and rights, many interpret this as a spiritual struggle as well as a political struggle. Jerusalem, specifically, is a sensitive point. Its importance to Jews, Christians, and Muslims makes it an epicenter of disputes, and this, according to prophecies, puts it directly in the focus of end-time events. The fact that Israel is constantly highlighted in the international arena, whether in debates on human rights or on territorial issues, seems to align directly with the idea that all nations would turn against it. This global opposition is seen by many as a prelude of what is to come, an event that will place Jerusalem at the center of a major conflict. The prophecy mentions that Jerusalem would become a cup of dizziness for all nations, and it is not difficult to see this unfolding before our eyes. Just look at how any political movement in Israel resonates globally. For many, the position that Israel occupies on the world stage is proof of the veracity of biblical prophecies. It is difficult to ignore the fact that, despite being a small nation, Israel occupies a disproportionate space in international discussions. And as this pressure mounts, many believe we are heading towards a moment of inevitable confrontation, in which Israel will stand alone against the rest of the world. It's almost as if we're watching a script that's already been written, unfolding in real time. As we continue to watch the pressure mount on Israel, it is becoming clear that this is a defining moment. Are we heading towards a prophetic outcome that will test all nations? Before we answer that question, it's important to remember that these aren't the only changes happening. The global landscape is constantly changing, and all these events seem to be converging on a common point, a point that could change the course of history forever. Throughout all of these topics, we explore the signs, prophecies, and global events that seem to point to something much greater than just circumstantial change. We have seen how global unification efforts, conflicts in the Middle East, the rise of artificial intelligence, and even the constant pressure on Israel may be converging on a scenario that aligns with ancient prophetic writings. All of this leads us to a single question: how should we prepare for the future unfolding before us? Each of us has a responsibility to reflect on what this means, not only in a spiritual context, but also in our daily lives. If we are truly living in times that may be described in the prophecies, we need to be spiritually and mentally prepared. This involves seeking knowledge, understanding what is happening around us, and above all, strengthening our faith and convictions. Perhaps it is time to reconnect with our values, our spirituality, and seek answers from something greater than ourselves. And for those who want to prepare, the first step can be something simple, such as studying the scriptures more deeply, sharing this knowledge with friends and family, or even honestly reflecting on your own life and purposes. It's not about living in fear, but about being aware, about being proactive and not reactive. What we are seeing is not a reason for panic, but a call for a change in perspective and behavior. Preparation begins in our minds and in our hearts. The transformation that is happening is global, but the impact begins within each of us. Are you willing to open your eyes to what is happening, question ready-made narratives, and seek a deeper understanding? Life can change in an instant, and the best way to face the unknown is with knowledge, faith, and determination. Perhaps the answers we are looking for are closer than we imagine, within ourselves and in the connection we have with the divine. Therefore, if you want to continue learning about these signs and prepare for what may come, subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and join us on this journey of knowledge and discovery. Don't settle for just being a spectator. Be part of those who are paying attention, who are preparing, and who want to understand what your role is in all of this. The choice is yours, and the time to act is now. Don't forget to download our book, The Secret Behind Biblical Prophecies. There are already more than 500,000 copies sold, and we are at the last units, so don't waste time and enjoy. I guarantee that you will acquire a lot of knowledge after reading this sensational book, written with great care and love for all the subscribers of our channel, completely based on the Holy Bible. The link is in the first pinned comment.